Hey everyone, welcome to the 8th video in my series of videos on Blender. This episode is going to be about materials. It's not going to be overly comprehensive, but it should give you enough to get you started. Just open up your file and add a monkey to the middle of the screen. You should know how to do that by now. Actually, let's make him look a little smoother. I'll select all, smooth. I'll go over to the modifiers, do my subdivide. Looks a little better. So you want to click on this icon right here for materials. Currently the monkey has no materials, so I will click new. Now you can see here in the window it gives you a preview of the material itself, and you have a few options of how it would look, including the monkey himself or herself. I usually just leave it on the sphere. So the first thing is the diffuse panel, and that is your color, which would be the color of the monkey. You can see him changing in the 3D window. I'll just go with a light bluish. The next thing we have is the intensity. You can see exactly what that does. I usually leave it at around the default 0.8. Sometimes I'll turn it up if I want the color to be a little brighter, but it's obviously a combination of the color and the intensity. The next thing that I'll often use is the specular, which is essentially gloss. So you have intensity for specular, and you can see right here in this window, you get an idea of what that does in terms of its sort of reflection on the object itself. And just watch the monkey's ear when I move the intensity down and up. And then here you have hardness, and that affects how the specular looks. Right now it's kind of blurry and faded. If you turn this up to something really high, you can see that it's been reduced to a dot. I'll just do it by hand here. Go back to 50. So if you wanted to make, say, pool balls or balls for a pool table, then you would want to increase the hardness, which basically sharpens the reflection itself. The shading I don't use very often, although sometimes I'll go shadeless if I'm, as you can see, it looks terrible. If I want to do sort of a flat render, most of the time I leave that. Next thing we have is transparency. If you turn it on, it doesn't look like much right now. If you move the alpha down a little, you can see up here what it would look like if I did a render. So if you're doing glass or marbles or anything, that's the kind of thing you would want to do. If you turn on the ray trace option, you get all kinds of stuff here, and generally the quality tends to be better when you use the ray trace option. It's also takes longer to render, but you have so many more options, specular, everything. I would encourage you to play around with them. There's all kinds of possibilities there. Just for fun, I'll move the alpha down. I'll do a quick render. So you can see his ear on the other side of the head. Turn it back up, do a quick render, and the ear is gone. The lighting looks awful there though. Let me just change that. I'll be doing lighting in the next episode actually. There's only one lamp here. That's a little better. Go back to the materials panel. Turn it off again, or lower it again. So there you can see the ear through the back. And if I go super alpha, he just looks like a glossy mess. Alright, turn that back up, hit escape. The next thing we have here is mirror. I'm going to shut off transparency. Turn on mirror. So actually I don't want mirror on in this particular case. You could turn mirror on, but unfortunately there's nothing around for it to reflect, so mirror won't show you much. So what I'll do is I'll go to 7, the top view, hit Shift A and add a plane, go back to front view, size it up, hit grab along the Z axis. Now I'll size it out a little more. Now I'll add a material for this particular mesh. So a little bit of a flakiness there. Click new. I'll make it, I don't know what color I'll make it. I'll make it kind of a reddish. That looks terrible. Let's do that a little bit. Now I will turn on mirroring in this particular case, turn on reflection itself, and you can see that the sphere is actually reflecting the wall. So now, if I make this a little bigger, if I render this out, you can see the monkey's actually reflected on this panel because I turn reflection on the panel. Let's just size this out a bit so you get a better idea of what's going on there. What I will do is get him as close to as possible. So there's your basic mirroring. You can do all kinds of cool stuff with it. You can have, you can put lamps and stuff, or one of the things I did is I had planes, like basic planes like this, up over the model, and I had them rectangular shaped and really bright, and I had glass, fake glass marbles, and it looked like they were reflective windows. Kind of hard to explain, but anyway, the possibilities are endless, and reflection is super easy now. It used to be really difficult in this program, and now it's crazy easy. So another thing I can do is I can duplicate the monkey along the x-axis, and so the material I made for the floor now actually exists and is available for the monkeys as well. And if I do a render there, you can actually see this monkey is reflected on the side of this monkey, and then both these monkeys are reflected here. So there's all kinds of reflection going on there. So that's a good point that I mentioned there, is anytime you add a new material, and you would do that with this button here. So now I have a new material. It's basically a duplicate of the old one. But if I were to change this to, say, a yellowish, so now you have three options here with materials. And you see the little zero beside this material? What that's indicating is there are no objects currently using that material. The other thing you can do is, I'll expand this out a bit, is you can call the material what you want. Let's call this blue, so that when you look in the material list, it's labeled whatever you want it to be. Okay, so I'll shut off mirroring. So that's all I wanted to talk about in terms of the materials. I'll come back to a couple other things, multiple materials, but next thing I'll talk about is textures. So textures are added to materials. So if I go to the texture window right now, I would basically be adding a texture to this material. And what you simply do is you say new. There's all kinds of stuff to choose from here. Marble is an example. Now if I go back over here, marble has actually been added here. You can't really see it yet, but it's been added to this particular material. So if I go back here, you can see that this is blue. Let's call it blue ball. And when you go back over to the material, you can see that this texture is now part of this blue ball. Anyway, there's all kinds of stuff going on here with marble. You can change how it looks. A lot of the built-in ones have that ability. I don't use a lot of them, to be honest with you. I usually keep my stuff pretty flat shaded, but like I said, for marble there's all these extra turbulence and things like that. Now down in the influence panel, it has various modes for this, and if you leave it on mix, just give it a color like, say, white. Now when you go back to this panel here, you'll notice that the marble is now white with blue. I'll make the blue a little more intense, so that looks a little more marbly. And then again, you can go back if you don't like that. So you change the size to something bigger, and that looks a little bit different, and so on, right? That actually looks pretty cool. Anyway, I digress. Actually, if we do a render now, you should see that the monkey looks like he's made of marble. Actually, the detail isn't too good there. Let's make our marble more marbly. How about that? That's a pretty marbly monkey. So you have the option to do all kinds of stuff here. Again, I don't use it that often. You can actually add multiple textures, and they kind of sit on top of each other. Like you can see now, there's cloud as part of the marble. If I uncheck it, it's back to just marble. If I check cloud and uncheck marble, then it's more of a cloudy ball. Now the other thing you can do is I'll go back here and I'll select this monkey. And if I go back over to the texture panel, the two textures that I created previously are now available for this monkey as well. So each of them has their own textures, and you can obviously reuse one texture with another. So this guy has glossy mirrored looking thing going on.